Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Freeman Files here on the J Free 906 podcast channel. We have Mike Owen, Jim Kelgard, John Nyberger, and John Stratton here with us tonight. And John, Nyberger, you are still muted. And so I tell you what,
he's a Broncos fan.
I knew I was muted. I wasn't speaking.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. You didn't start talking or anything. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We appreciate it very, very much. We have this show. I tell you what, this is one of those shows where I think I'd always do my best to try to get everything in that we're going to talk about in 2 hours. It might be a struggle tonight, so because there's so much to talk about. Before we get started, I'd like to say again, thank you for joining us. And if you haven't already, would you please consider subscribing to the channel? And if you like the content of the show that we do for you here tonight, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that very much. It helps out in the YouTube algorithms and all of that. So let's get started. There's a couple of things. We're going to be talking about The Age of Disclosure, which was a movie documentary that just came out yesterday. It's available, I guess, in theaters and on Amazon Prime. Is that correct? It's in theaters too, right? I didn't actually go look. But,
limited release in New York, DC, and LA, I think.
Okay. All right. And so for those of you who have not seen it, yes, we're going to do some spoilers here tonight. But I suggest at some point that you do, because this was fantastic. The work done to put this thing together was done very, very well. And I think that the way they flowed through the entire, all the information that they wanted to put out was done very well. So, but I wanted to start off by reading a couple of the quotes that were done during the show. And of course, this is The Age of Disclosure, talking about all the UFO, UAP data that has been covered up for so long. And here's one of them. It says, non-human intelligence exists. It's been interacting with humanity, and it's been doing so for a very long time. Another one said, we are not the only intelligent life form in the universe. There is something here on this planet that's more intelligent than us. And I agree with both of those. And that's pretty profound to come out and make a statement like that. But you know what? I think it's so true. Now, the people that they brought on to this, and this isn't one of those shows where, they're talking about abductees and interviewing abductees and things like, not that those didn't happen and all of that. I'm not going to say that those things do not happen, because they probably do. But this is not what this was about. They had all these people that came on to the show, and they were professionals. And I'm going to bring up this little statement real quick, and then we'll get started and get everybody's thoughts on this. This is one of the statements that was brought in right off the very beginning of the show, right here. Everyone interviewed in this film has direct knowledge of unidentified aerial/anonymous phenomena, UAP, as a result of their work for the U.S. government. Okay? So these people know what they're talking about. They really, truly do. So, guys, what do you think about, anybody can jump in on this who wants to start, but the people involved, I was very impressed with the cast of folks that they brought in here, but also their integrity. You guys agree with that?
100%. The way that I would say is that a lot of people, some of the more critique of the film that I've heard is that there's not really an awful lot of new things that came out. And to an extent, that may be correct, but I think the big thing is not what's being said, but who it is that's saying them, which kind of ties into the remark you just made, Jeff, is that the credibility is probably not the best word, but I'll go with it. But as you just said, everybody that appears and offers up their testimony and their viewpoints and their experiences are all people that came from some position of having that knowledge that most of us don't. I mean, take a look at Jay Stratton. You will not find a more authoritative figure in that was involved with the government UAP program
Right.
than Jay Stratton. And the stuff that Jay talks about is just, I mean, that was one of my favorite things, was seeing how much Jay was involved in all the great insights that he had to offer. But it was really, I think, integrity and character defines everybody that was on there. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I one of the things that it really strikes you that there aren't any UFO documentaries like this.
No.
You'll see some out there that have some historical figures that were in government during the military, but they're all from the 50s, 60s, 70s. They're not modern era people, and usually they're dead. It's historical footage, or you see reporting of what they said in some letter or something like that. These are all modern era people putting their reputations on the line to tell you what they can. They're going to go. People that thought that they were going to come out and release classified information are morons. It's not going to happen,
Right.
But and if you are an ardent follower of this topic, this documentary might not be for you, in the sense that this is for the people who maybe haven't been quite paying attention. But when they see people of this caliber and of this notoriety might be the wrong word, but people know who these people are. A lot of them, Marco Rubio and Senator Gillibrand and Senator Schumer and all the other people of that level. These are names that people know about, right? So when we hear them saying things as straightforward and frankly as they did in this documentary, I think a lot of people are going to sit up and take notice.
Yeah, I've just flashed up. That's half. That's half. When I first watched this, I was thinking, oh, there's about 10 people they interviewed. And then I started getting these collages together. That's half of them. Here's the other half. I mean,
right.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And these are people who have either in government now, or they're former government employees and high ranking in most cases.
Right.
Yeah, former director of national intelligence, current director of the CIA, former director of the NSA, a couple of them. You've got
Secretary of State,
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Give me a break. This is a different caliber of people than what you see in a typical documentary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Unmatched integrity. Absolutely. That's a great way to say it. Great way.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. To speak to the integrity, I mean, I, grew up around Jay Stratton, my dad, and he never gave me any amount of information really that I haven't been given prior or outside. So really anything we discuss, anything I hear from him, he's always very particular about maintaining the integrity. He doesn't leak information. Just being the fact that I'm a Stratton, I don't get special access to things I don't get to have access to.
Right.
But my overall thought of the documentary, what's really important, I'm going to steal a line from last night on Hannity, where Dan Farah and my dad, Jay Stratton, spoke of the documentary, is, what this documentary essentially is a unclassified briefing that is digestible, understandable by the average American. Absolutely. To break this topic out and help to defeat the stigma.
Yeah. And I got to say too, and thank you for that, because that's exactly what, when I watched this, especially at the end, and it's long, folks, it's like an hour and 45 minutes or 48 minutes, something like that. But when I got to the end of it, I felt compelled to do my best. And I think it's as Lou Elizondo said, the fire's been started and it's growing. And I felt compelled that I need to do my part, small that it may be, to try to keep that fire going, because that's the only way that we're going to get the disclosure, that the data that we really need to get from government, is if we all keep that fire going. Do you guys not agree?
100%.
Absolutely. As you just said, this is essentially an icebreaker into disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I agree. I think a lot of people were expecting, more evidence and let's bring out the hard evidence. And that's not what this is. This is the icebreaker. This is hopefully another part of the beginning of disclosure. This isn't the end. it's
Right.
we're still at the beginning of the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is the conversation starter for people who maybe don't pay as much attention to the topic, people that really still maybe consider all of it to be a bit of a fringe topic, maybe a little bit of a stigma attached to it. This film, I think, is perfectly designed to help break down that stigma and really kind of start conversations with everybody, not just with people that are already familiar with the topic and follow it regularly, but maybe the people that, I mean, what a great way to say, hey, what do you think about this new documentary that, did you see that interview that Jake Tapper did on CNN, or did you see that interview with Hannity, or I mean, there's just or the Joe Rogan interview that Dan Farah did. I mean, it's I think a great conversation starter, and I think they're conversations that need to be held to, as you said, Jeff, to keep this fire going. And I know that's one of the things that you and I talked about when you reached out to me about this, and the fact that my team are coming on to talk about this with you and Mike and your team, and we're doing it again tomorrow because we need. I mean, I feel so strongly, again, the wrong word, and that's I attribute it to my my knock on the head that I had, but it's a perfect opportunity to evangelize the cause. And what is that cause? That cause is getting truth out there, letting people be aware of this absolutely amazing testimony that people like Jay Stratton, Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Lou Elizondo, people that were right there in the thick of it. You get so many people that say, well, nobody's really come forward that really has any level of credibility. And of course, people that say that clearly don't pay attention.
Right.
Because, obviously we had great witnesses like David Grush and Ryan Graves and David Fravor that testified before Congress. But we are now at a whole other level when we start bringing people like Jay Stratton into the conversation. And when you learn about Jay's background, again, you will not find anybody that is more credible and that can speak with greater authority and knowledge that has been involved in this than Jay Stratton. And I'm, so yeah, we got to keep that fire burning. And that's why I'm just so excited to be here talking about this with all you guys tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a really good launching point because you've heard, I mean, I'm pretty well versed in this realm, right? And so most of the people in this I've heard talk before. Some I heard talk more than I've heard them say before. And there were a couple of new players in it too. But prior to this, you would have had to have, scrubbed YouTube to try and get, to convince someone that there are credible people that talk about this topic. And then it's not just onesie twosie to hit everybody. Was it 32 or 34 people that, 34. I mean, it's overwhelming. I mean, I quit counting after watching it 6 times because I'm like, I kept listening to what somebody would say and I'd be processing that and somebody'd say something else and I miss it and I'd watch another time. I'm like, man, I missed that the first time. Now the second time, third, there's just a lot. So it's a great thing to hand somebody that says, yeah, I don't know about that, UAP crap.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just take a look at this. Just take a look at who these people are. True. Not a lot of, jaw-dropping chunks of evidence, but when this many people of this caliber with this much integrity all come to the microphone all at once,
yes,
it's kind of hard to look away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah,
well said.
Yeah, especially when I believe when Jay came out and he said, "I have seen non-human craft and I have seen non-human beings."
Yeah.
That statement alone. Now there are things that are so classified, and I know that Lou said this later on in the show, and I got so many notes. I was flipping through them trying to find the quote because Lou had a very good statement. I'll find it and talk about it in a minute. But that, yeah, there you go, John. Yeah,
I've got like 12 pages printed out here. I tried to beat your 6 pages.
But
that's our John.
Yeah, there's so much that they cannot say because it's still highly classified, but there is a lot they can say. and this is for real. Now, when I think it was when ATIP was started, and I'm going to go back and let's start talking about some of how this all got started, the cover-ups and all of this kind of thing, and we'll start there and kind of make our way toward the future here, or toward present time. But they talk about the fact that when that started, they found out for a fact at that point that Roswell happened. It did happen. And there's been so many, okay, you get the tinfoil hats out, all the kind of craziness that's going on about that. You go back to that. And even if you're not completely convinced, just simply look at the fact that why did Truman, right after Roswell happened, why did Truman jump on the bandwagon and start with his it was in 1947 he did the CIA. He got together with the CIA and the National Security Act, the CIA and the Air Force together to start working together. Now, he had a great idea. It kind of has caused a lot of issues today, that great idea. But he started that program. Now, why would he do that just months after Roswell happened? If Roswell never really truly happened, if there was no craft, no bodies, nothing, why would he have done that? He wouldn't have, right?
Well, thinking about it, it would kind of make sense though, because it's still fairly soon after World War II, and the Cold War was really starting to heat up.
Yep.
So, but I tend to think that, I've always been kind of on the fence with Roswell. I mean, I've never doubted that something crashed there, but hearing Jay and Lou talk about it really kind of perked my ears up. And the acknowledgement that there were bodies that were recovered was another one of the big jaw-dropping moments from the documentary. And hearing who mentioned that specifically was like, wow.
Yeah.
So I think that there may be, you may be onto something, Jeff, that it's an interesting coincidence, if nothing else. And one thing that we've learned in covering a lot of the topics that we talk about is there are no coincidences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would not surprise me if that was a motivating factor at the very least for why we established the CIA, the Air Force, and so on. So yeah, that's certainly interesting to think about, for sure.
Yeah. Now, what happened at the same time? At the same time, the disinformation campaign started.
Yes.
At the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They had to start knocking this down. Now, they had their reasons at the time. I probably would agree with them at the time. If I had been there, I probably would have agreed with them that they needed to do what they did. But they started the disinformation campaign right then and there, because they came out just shortly after and said, you saw the one newspaper that said there was alien craft, or a saucer was crashed. And then all of a sudden, no, government said, no, there was no saucer. It was just a weather balloon and all this kind of stuff. Okay, that's where that started. But what else did they do at that same time? Now, this is all, folks, I'm just relating what this documentary just told us about. At the same time, they started the stigma to kind of discredit people that were talking about it. The stigma.
And it's interesting
today.
Yeah, and it's interesting how they specifically called out that one of the areas that they were able to put that into action was by cooperation with movie studios in Hollywood, right? To turn the UFO topic into something to be derided and made fun of and spoofed, and specifically to move it to the fringe area where, we're like today, we still, people that derisively talk about the topic are still going to say, oh, tinfoil hats, or the little green men or little gray men. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of the turning of the corner with a lot of the media when they talk about it now. They're not quite taking those same kind of pot shots that they have for so long. But absolutely, there was the coordinated campaign to discredit. And not only that, they also talked about intimidation, right?
yeah.
all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that was good to hear somebody acknowledge that.
Well, heck, even up until maybe last year, if there was a news report related to something like this, odds are someone in that report played the X-Files theme,
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
like even something as simple as that. They were always trying to deride and kind of make light of this. And I don't see that at all happening with regard to this movie in the promotion, the interviews. Without exception, everyone that I've seen has been very serious.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that's a good sign.
absolutely.
Yeah. My feelings about this, the documentary does a really good job at, breaking the ability for the stigma to take hold in this setting, just because it takes all of these government officials, these serious people, it frames it in a way that helps build the credibility and honest integrity, all of that. But no, the stigma is absolutely real. The stigma goes deeper than really anyone would probably even imagine. Whether it be commercial airline pilots, private pilots losing their flight status just due to reporting, or, base security not being willing to report on a UAP incursion because, well, it's paperwork, and then they're going to send me to psych, and then, all of these things, they snowball. So no, stigma is the biggest problem that we're facing with disclosure.
Yeah, still. Yeah.
And tell me, Jeff, I mean, one of the reasons why Roger and I started the Soul of the Unexplained was to, do our small part from our super small part of cyberspace to lessen the stigma for talking about these topics of the general unexplained, whether we're talking Skinwalker Ranch, UFOs, Sasquatch, whatever. It's something that deserves to be destigmatized. And I think that your podcast right here with the J3 906 podcast is a shining example of that. The fact that you bring in the people that you bring in, whether it's the folks with Oak Island or Skinwalker Ranch or the Bigfoot folks that you've had come on to talk, they are people that are driven by scientific data. It's not just, I mean, they take the legends and the folklore and things like that into account. But the only way you're going to ever move forward with any of this is by having credentialed individuals that are credible, that are intelligent, they can speak articulately, unlike me, and they're it's a service that a lot of great podcasters do, like you. And I think that doing what we can to destigmatize it, and the best way to do it is to do what we're doing, just talking about it and letting people know it's okay to talk about stuff, and even more so, it's okay to admit that we don't know. But what's not okay is to tell people that they're silly, they're foolish, they're stupid, they're backwards for thinking about stuff like this or paying any attention to it. That's where the real problem lies, is people that unfortunately take that viewpoint, because there's bona fide mysteries in this universe, and the UAP issue is foremost among them for a lot of people, myself included. So it's good to talk about it. It is. So never feel bad.
No, I won't, and that's the thing. I don't. And I brought this up since the movie came out yesterday, and I brought this up to a few people. I won't mention any names for their own sake, but right away I get pushback. Oh yeah, I don't want to watch anything about, aliens probing some guy or cryptid body, alien bodies or whatever. That's not what this documentary movie was about. It's not interviews of people that have had sightings or whatever, but you run into that, and you run into the religious aspect. They're demons. They're demons. We're not. Well, okay. If they were demons, don't you want to know still? I mean, it is. It's very strong. I like what, and Linda had that up there just a moment, what Michelle had said there about more than one. The reason most of these guys come out and, thank you.
Strength in numbers.
Strength in numbers. Exactly. Yes. Strength in numbers. The group can withstand the attack easier. So yes, thank you. That's absolutely true.
Apes together.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah. It's absolutely true. What Tecumseh said, a single twig may break, but a bundle of twigs is strong. So that's something that they have to take advantage of in these fringe topics.
Yep.
And like you just said, Jeff, I mean, the demons factor, the fact that we would have people in senior leadership positions with national security going off on their religion and stating that these things are demons, we shouldn't be messing with them, and discounting this whole side of our airspace integrity and our national security.
National
It's wild to
security.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, like Jay
Absolutely.
said, he's like, we're investigating something real. Like I'm showing you evidence of something in our area of operation. We don't know what this is, and we need to figure this out. And they take that to somebody, and they're like, "Oh no, it's a demon or something.
Yep.
You shouldn't be investigating." That doesn't even
That
make
was crazy.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
That
Yeah,
was crazy when I saw
The
that.
amount of effort put into creating a stigma should be some indication of just how much technology we had to gain from finding that craft.
Precisely.
I mean, it was national secrets beyond the nuclear weapons. I mean, they knew that could be even greater than the nukes that were there at Roswell on base. So why not create the biggest stigma of all time? And if that doesn't work, well, let's throw a religion at it too.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Mhm.
anything we do to get people to look the other way.
Good point.
And if science or scientists were true to the scientific process, stigma and all of that should mean nothing. You look wherever there's something interesting. It doesn't matter what people say about tinfoil hats. That's fine. I don't care. If it's doing something beyond what I understand physics to be able to explain, I'm going to look closer. You can call me whatever you want me to call. I don't care. There's something to be learned here. So let's go look at it.
I equate it, and I could not agree more, Mike. That was perfectly said. What it makes me think of is when I was in junior high and high school, and if there was say I'd be in a class and a teacher would ask the class a question, and if I did my homework and I raised my hand to answer the question, you're always going to get somebody that's going to say, "Oh, teacher's pet. Oh, Kelgard's a dork. He's a nerd."
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of the times, quite obviously, it's done just to make fun, and it's all good natured. But sometimes, I've been the recipient where people are trying to silence me by, because I want to contribute to the class. I want to contribute to the conversation. And it's no different than that, because there's legitimate reasons why everybody should be paying attention to this, because not only is there the answering the question of the greatest mystery, the greatest question that we've all wanted to know: are we alone in the universe? Are we alone on our planet? But also, like you said, Mike, think about the technological implications. And Jay talked about it, Lou talked about it, Hal talked about the technology. If it can be gleaned from these crash retrievals and put into society, we could literally, it could leapfrog us into the next phase of, human evolution, for want of a better term, where we have this 0 point energy, and we have the means to travel instantaneously across vast distances if we can figure out how to unlock the very things that we see these objects doing. And that's the other key thing that Jay touched upon, that Johnny mentioned, which is these things are solid physical objects. And if you remember, the very first UAP report that was released in 2021, I believe, actually said as much. And they said that these objects are real. They represent physical, tangible objects. So again, and it's really kind of a fine line, Jeff, because I don't want to trample on anybody's religious beliefs, because there are people out there that I think are good people, but they just, for whatever reason, their religious and spiritual viewpoint doesn't allow for something other than mankind that God created, that's intelligent, that may actually be more advanced intellectually and everything than humans are. And I realize that's a bridge too far for some people, and I respect that. But at the same time, for the sake of everybody, because we're talking about national security, it's not security just for the people that subscribe to one particular viewpoint. You kind of have to take it seriously and view it as a threat, like they're talking about. So I all excellent points, Mike and Johnny both.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I will say
Yeah,
too,
I
and
would-
I've said this before. Really, let me put this out real quick here because this is while we're on this particular topic. You see this right here behind me hanging on the wall. I don't put that there just because I think it's kind of neat now that it's hanging on the wall. I am a Christian. I've talked about that on the show before. But this, and people ask me, well, how can you believe in aliens and life on other planets when you're a Christian? And I'll say, well, does it say anything in the Bible of not that God didn't make more?
Putting limitations on God. How's that?
Exactly. If you
Christian?
look up in the night
Mhm.
sky and you see all of those stars out there, okay, there's stars, there's trillions of stars, and there's trillions of other galaxies and trillions of stars within those. God made it all. He made all of it, in my opinion. So if he did, why would he not make other life besides us? I don't think that's not going to, if a mothership flew over the house and we saw it coming down and we saw the aliens and everything, would that then ruin my religion? Would I stop believing in God? No. Would I stop believing in his son? No, I would not. Because I don't think that is, like you just said, Jim, it limits God. God created all of it.
Yeah.
Did he just make all that for us to just look at in the night sky? Wow, that's really cool,
Yeah.
Trillions of other galaxies.
And I again, I hate to step on toes in saying this, but blame it on my lack of filter that I've talked about since I had this knock on the head. But it's, the people that make the decisions to protect our country, they have to take into account that there's people that aren't just belonging to one, the Christian Judeo spiritual line of thinking. And so it behooves everybody. You have to make choices that are going to be in the best interest of everybody. And again, people are absolutely free to believe what they want to believe when it comes to the whole demons versus angels thing. I think there's good arguments to be had on both sides, but I think that people that are shot callers in our government, people that are the ones that are truly in a position to quote unquote gatekeep the secrets, if you will, they need to be as neutral as possible when it comes to things like that. And they should not, I guess I would say they should by nature be informed by their religious and spiritual upbringing for what their core values are. But to enforce that, is it, and we're getting into the weeds here, and I really don't mean to, but it's it makes more sense to I think try to keep that aspect out of it, because I think it's bigger than that. I absolutely think it's bigger than that particular segment of things, and that's the gospel according to Jim.
Well,
Yeah.
it's exactly
To bolster. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, please jump in, John.
Yeah. To bolster Mike's point, thousands of years have gone by and we've looked at technology and scientists and, throughout history, scientists have been persecuted by religious organizations and, they're tempting God. People that are trying to engineer flight or new technology are looked at as doing demons work. So I feel like, 100 years, 1,000 years, any amount of time from now, we could look back on the people doing the same thing with this aspect of the UAP and the research into, the just broader paranormal topics that we discuss as those idiots that just couldn't see past that they were doing science. And really, that's where we're at is this just a matter of, human nature to stigmatize things that we just don't understand?
Right.
Well, I'd like to add, I think from a national security perspective, it behooves us to try to do away with our, not to bring our biases into this topic, focus on what we know, focus on what we can detect, focus on what we see with our sensors, with our eyes, with our experiences, and just say, look, we don't know what these are. And to some extent, you can leave it at that. I mean, you still need to investigate, but to pile on additional biases on top of that unnecessarily is probably it detracts from what you're trying to do. I think. I think trying to stay as neutral as possible and just say, look, this is why we need to investigate. We don't know what these things are. If there are if there is a non-human intelligence behind these things, we need to figure that out. We need to figure out if we can we understand why they're here? What are they doing? If in the movie, they said this isn't just one species. There's multiple of these things.
Yeah.
They might not all have the same goal.
Right.
We should understand that. We should try to understand that if we even can. If we have the capability to understand that, we should at least make the attempt. Right.
Agreed.
Yeah. That's kind of my feeling on that topic.
Yeah. It's like Eric had said, Eric Davis, when he was talking about there's two, and for him, there was two different species besides humans. One that were found on the craft, and I forgot the other one now that he was talking about, but he said there was two. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to go back to what Truman had set up with the CIA and the Air Force. That was kind of the beginning of what was called the Legacy Program. The Legacy Program, for those folks out there that have not yet seen the show, the Legacy Program was created and it evolved into these agencies. So it was the Legacy Program, basically headed up by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA.
They're the managers.
And then under that, you have the Department of Energy, the United States Air Force, the CIA and the Air Force were the two to begin it, and defense contractors. And I tell you, when as they were talking about these aspects as they went through the show, it really it really bothered me more than I ever thought of before, because of what these other entities are doing or not doing. That really kind of bothered me because first of all, we talked about the Air Force, and I forget which one of them brought this up, but they were talking about the Air Force. Now, the Air Force, you would think would be the ones that are, they rule our skies. Okay. They're constantly watching the skies, whether it's by planes flying or it's by satellites or pardon me,
missiles.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's by their radar tech and all of that. They're watching the skies all the time. You would think that we would get more information from them about what's going on in the skies than anywhere else, right? But we don't. We get more information from the Navy pilots. I was a Navy man. I know, you see those guys flying around all the time. You get more information. I mean, the Tic Tac and all of that and the fast mover, all those were from Navy ships. Okay. Yep. So is it they're not watching? Oh, no, they're watching, but they're not giving up the information.
Yeah. I like the analogy that was used in that, Jeff, where I don't know if it was Jay or Lou that made the quote, but I'm paraphrasing here. It was basically, this is similar to if we all of a sudden detected all these submarines off the coast of our country.
Yep.
And the Air Force says, "Hey, we're detecting all these Russian or Chinese submarines off the coast of Washington and New York City." And then so you go and you do the logical thing, which is to talk to the branch of the service that is tasked with protecting our oceans, which would be the Navy. And then the Navy responding and saying, no, we don't see them. I mean, it's that kind of egregious deflection of everything. A deflection.
Imagine if someone said, "Oh, those are just demons."
Yeah, they're demons in the water. Yeah,
like what? It's a submarine.
Shout out to the chat. You guys in the chat are awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing.
Russian submarines definitely are demons. Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I just want to say one thing tangentially. about that chart that was up there, or the organizational
I'll bring it
diagram.
back up. Yep.
One of the things that strikes me the most about this, and again, this is my layman's understanding of things. The CIA is not chartered to operate in the United States. They are a foreign intelligence gathering agency, and yet here they are operating inside the U.S., running this program. And they run operations against U.S. citizens that they are not legally allowed to do.
That's against their charter. They're
Yes.
not supposed to do that.
So
That is
should
correct.
make everyone that looks at this very angry.
Yeah.
Just
The-
on those grounds alone, this should piss people off.
The intelligence based on American citizens is the purview of the FBI, of course, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking for the I've got a statement written down here about the CIA and when they were set up. And man, I got too many notes. I was doing my best trying to put these all together and get everything
Yeah.
organized so that I could look at this quickly.
Well, and we're good
well-
at going down rabbit holes, Jeff.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
well,
We will
while you look
derail
at
this
that,
train.
I mean,
Go
And
ahead.
you
I can go into a little bit on the stuff we were
Please.
just talking about. So,
Please.
to me, the fact that the Navy would be reporting more about UAP actually kind of makes sense, because I don't remember the exact percentage. It's something like 80% of the globe is water.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Air Force may say that 100% of the skies is ours, but the Navy is the one monitoring all of the oceans and the airspace above the oceans. So it really just makes sense that they would have more statistical probability to interact with these. And then, of course, over the mainland United States, we're not really running radar and we're not really running the sensors that are capable of picking up these entities out there, the phenomenon, sorry. So the Navy is constantly running sensors. They're constantly scanning. So anything that is within their region, they're more likely to just pick up.
Very true.
Yeah. So the but yeah, so the CIA, I mean, they were given the power to do what they're doing without any other government agency or bureaucracy overseeing what they're doing. So they were able to keep secrets from basically whoever they wanted. And I thought it was a very interesting topic about when they got into the need to know. And this is another one of those areas that kind of blew me away. The need to know. Now, when you have someone in those positions of the director of the CIA or the director or deputy director of the FBI, the president himself, the vice president, or any of these people that are basically, what did they say? Temporary
Temporary employees.
employees. They don't have a need to know based upon what these guys assume or figure that their thing is they don't have a need to know because they're going to be gone in a little while. It's that guy down there below them, and I forgot what term that they gave him for in the CIA, but that have been there for 30 years.
Technology, CIA technology.
Yeah.
Yep, something
like that. Now, those people that have been there for 30 years, those are the ones that have all the information. The rest of them, they don't have a need to know. So when you think that, oh, the president knows everything that's going on, I differ. And so we found out during this, and these are all things, again, folks, that they talked about very specifically during this documentary, which is another reason why I think people need to watch this, because we're just skimming across a lot of this stuff based upon my handwritten notes that I can't find half the time. But this is stuff that they talked about. So when you have the presidents up there, here was a good example, was Bush Sr. During the Ford administration, when Ford took over, Bush Sr. was the director of the CIA. Okay. And he didn't know about the legacy program. He found out about it later. And he found out about some of the crash retrieval and things like this. And he wanted to go find out. He's like, oh, I give me more information on this. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You don't have a need to know. What?
Well, it all comes down to that one key phrase: plausible deniability.
That's also there too. Yes, especially the president.
And that's why in the past, whenever we've seen these reports that have been put out by the Air Force or the Department of Defense, like the Roswell report that came out in, what was it, 1997, and that's when they said, oh, it was, yes, there was something that crashed, but it was part of this top secret program called Project Mogul, and it was all these weather balloons and crash test dummies and all this kind of thing. Not realizing that people were smart enough to figure out, okay, they weren't using those kind of crash test dummies, and Project Mogul didn't actually even literally get off the ground until after the crash in Roswell happened.
Mhm.
So, but again, it's whenever people ask, like whenever the media goes to ask a particular branch of the government what they know about UAPs, and they answer, we have found nothing that indicates that there's anything exotic or off-world origin, non-human intelligence. And the reason is they're not looking in the right areas. They're not talking to the right people, because the people that are giving the answers are answering honestly because they haven't been read into it in most instances. So again, it's that plausible deniability where they're not technically lying to you because they can't answer, because they don't know. They haven't been read into it. And I think that's a lot of where a lot of the frustration comes from a lot of people. A lot of other things too, but still, yeah.
Can you imagine? We've had a lot of whistleblowers that have come forward and talked about certain things, things that they know, things that they've seen. You really wish they could say more, but obviously there's still quite a bit that is highly classified, and they can't. But to tell us that these things exist is what's key, that they really are there. But just take Lou Elizondo and what he went through. He had to make the decision. And this is, again, talked about very detailed in this documentary, what Lou went through. He had to make a decision on his own to decide whether or not does he talk about what he knows and risk everything, maybe even his life, to do so, or does he just silently stay out of it and not say a word? Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know what I would do. I in that case, I don't know what I would do. His family, everything that was on the line, and he chose to disclose. Can you imagine that? I mean,
It's real.
it's real. It's very real.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, and this is something that again was brought up in the show that really kind of got me too. I'm trying to get to my slide I have on this because okay, yeah, yep, he'll be right back with us.
He's going to get the Denver Broncos scores. Never mind, they don't play till tomorrow. He's
yeah. Okay. So Lou and thank you, Craig. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So Lou decides that he's going to go out and he's going to start to talk a little bit about this. Although he's not going to give us the details, but he's going to talk about the fact that these things exist, right? And a little bit about what he knows. And then Jay had mentioned in the documentary, that he was approached by the Pentagon, and they were going to make some statements about Lou that Jay knew was not true. And he told him that's not true. That is absolutely not true, because he knew that the two of them knew each other all during this time, right? And so they ran with it anyway. And then you get a statement like this: Lou Elizondo did not have any assigned responsibilities for ATIP. And this was a Pentagon spokesperson. There was two of them that came out. I only documented or grabbed one of them here. And then you have this. And then, there's John back. All right, let me bring him back on stage. There we go. And then you have this. The media loves this UFO expert who says he worked for an obscure Pentagon program. Did he? There's no discernible evidence that Lou Elizondo ever worked for a government program, much less led one.
mm-hmm. Planting the seeds of doubt, isn't it?
My gosh. My gosh. Can you, I mean, and then he even talked about where there was a discussion made about actually ending his life.
Yeah.
Over this.
Yeah, that was one of the most sobering moments of the film for me was that specific thing there. And I think what this does is it shows two things. Number one, it shows this is precisely why people don't trust their government, because they're feeding us a line of stuff that is categorically and patently false to begin with.
Yep.
And then it also shows, again, it demonstrates the integrity of one Jay Stratton, because he came and he tried going to bat for Lou and saying, look, you're putting out a press release that is just not true, and you know it. And so, again, we do have very good people on the inside that have been trying to fight this battle for us and help to bring this stuff out. So that's just one kind of comparison that I wanted to show, was obviously the government doing what we would kind of expect them to do in this kind of thing, but then obviously there's still, again, there's people that are involved that are trying to bring this out, that are going about it the right way.
Yeah, I think a great deal of confusion. Assuming everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I guess I should check since I just came back.
Pretend we can't hear him. Mike, did you have something you wanted to say? Oh,
John, I see your lips moving, but
I was saying something about the Raiders. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, your audio just cut out. What was that?
No, I think one thing that really caused a great deal of confusion was that 2017 article, that started a lot of this, that talked about ATIP. That article got a lot of things right, but it got a lot of things wrong. And when you're talking about ATIP versus OSAP, who ran what, who was in charge of what, they got a lot of things wrong, and has sort of needlessly confused the topic. And I don't think anyone publicly has done a great job of untangling that mess since then. And I suspect that in some of their responses, the DOD has taken advantage of that confusion and kind of played into it to make it worse. They might say something that is technically correct, but only technically, and they're playing on the fact that we're all confused about what we're even talking about because we're using the wrong names for different programs or confusing two different things.
Yeah.
So they're absolutely taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I think the threats
well, the government
real.
loves their acronyms.
Yeah, the threats are real. That you were talking about Lou, and he said Lou and David Grush. There were discussions on taking them out, killing them. Dan Farrow was on Joe Rogan, and he said there were two additional people that he wanted to interview, and they in the 11th hour kind of came to him and said, I'm not going to be able to participate in this because I don't want to. And he said this was interesting. They both said the exact same phrase. I don't want to forfeit my life, which to me means your government that you work for has determined you've become a clear and present danger, and they're going to take you out. And that's that they have determined you're violating your oath in working for the government. So they'll make fun of you until you keep going far enough, and then they're going to threaten you. And you're getting real close when you get threats.
That's when you know you're over the target, as they say.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John, what were you going to say?
Me?
No.
Which John?
Other John.
Yeah.
Mr. Stratton.
Yeah. No, so, there is a lot of confusion, and I know the documentaries kind of fueled some of the confusion about, the ATIP versus OSAP, which, as one of our commenters, just had mentioned, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program versus the Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Applications Program. Government loves their acronyms, as I just said, and really, ultimately speaking, they're different programs, but they're one of the same. They're essentially the same programs, same people. And the reason of leaving out one versus the other or using both to the documentary is really just, as we had mentioned, digestible for the average American, just decreasing the level of confusion in the acronyms. And, as Smurf Michelle had put out in the comments there, is this hopefully should all be untangled in my father's book. So look forward to a book from Jay Stratton, hopefully in the future.
It better
Can't
be
wait.
I
soon.
can't wait.
I'm going to be really mad if it's not soon.
I know.
I find out more from the internet about his book than I do from my own family. So if anyone ever asks me questions, I apologize. Go to the internet, you'll get better information than I have.
I know.
That's funny.
Your mom and I and your dad, we're allegedly friends. I ask them questions and they're like, "Sorry, can't tell you."
I
We're
am the
family.
alleged son,
We're family, and they just
the resemblance is, just not quite there. I'm sure I look nothing like either of them. So
No,
I'm
no.
probably just a dropped off alien, They took in the alien from dropped off on the porch.
There's no resemblance whatsoever.
I just restrict my conversations with Jay to tacos and music.
Yes, tacos and music. Yes, he is a very good guitar player, by the
He
way.
really is. He's quite good.
Amazing good card.
Yes, and so are you, Jim. And you're an excellent bass player there, John. I've never seen you play any other instruments, so I can't comment on those. But
I like to hide.
John is the best. Is what I tell people. John is not only the best singer in the band, he's also the best piano player in the band.
I am the best stagehand for the band, though. I can only say that because I am not a musician.
Yeah.
But as Smurf Michelle just said, we can look forward to the book being out this spring, it sounds like.
Woohoo!
See, that's news to me.
Oh,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's the first I've heard that.
on Rogan.
I wanted it. I wanted a Christmas present. Come
Yeah,
on.
that would have been
See,
good for Christmas.
and that's only further confirmation. That's all we needed.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
It's an adopted alien baby found in the dumpster. Wow.
That's
Hey,
okay, Johnny.
Johnny.
My parents told me that the police brought me, so
Oh, yeah. There you
we're
go.
definitely the same tribe.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Well,
All right.
Family Guy made a song about prom night dumpster baby. I am a Roswell dumpster baby. That is the case.
All right. That's awesome. Oh my goodness.
We're definitely going off the
Yeah,
rails.
hey,
now.
what?
See,
It's got to be entertaining. It's
Rein
gotta
us
be
in, Jeff.
Fun and entertaining, and we all might learn something in the process. That's what this
right,
is all
that's
about,
right.
right? All right.
Yes, indeed.
I've got a couple of quotes here that I wanted to talk about. One of the gentlemen that was interviewed on the show was Mike Gallagher, and he's in that collage. I forget exactly what I didn't write down on my notes here exactly what his
He was
job.
a senator, if I'm not mistaken, senator or representative in Congress.
And he talked about four
Wisconsin.
hypotheses out there concerning the UFO UAPs. He said, one, that they would be a foreign adversary tech. Okay. If you can't roast your own kid, what's the fun of having? Very good. I love that. That's awesome. There must be a fun podcast. They're calling your mom a Smurf Michelle. Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not touching that
There's
one.
reasons
I know,
behind
I'm
that.
seeing right back. I noticed that over on the Skinwalker Ranch Insiders. Now I see all the moderators have Smurf in front of their name because they're in blue or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's the whole thing is because they have a little blue mark. So, and she's short. So
No.
I
I'm
wasn't gonna
outside of
say that,
sandal
but I'll
range. So I'm outside of sandal range. I'm safe.
yeah. Well, I did, hear about a book that Jay was going to be writing like about a year and a half ago at Phenomicon. I think it was a year and a half ago. Might have been 2.5 years ago. Anyway, well, it was a while back. So the four hypotheses: one, that they are foreign adversary tech. Okay. Two, robust counterintelligence program to cover tech that we have. Okay. Three, interdimensional or extraterrestrial. Or four, a combination of all of the above. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys, all of you, individually, and I'm going to start with Mike up at the top. Of those four, or even add your own if you'd like, which do you think UAP or UFO UAP objects flying around in the sky are? Foreign adversary tech, robust counterintelligence, interdimensional, or maybe all four? All three.
I'm gonna add my own.
Okay.
Intertemporal time travelers.
Good call, Mike.
Oh, nice.
That's another
Nice.
another
Never found
possibility that you have to throw into the mix.
All right, Jim, what do you think? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
I'm just going to say is that has a lot of merit. I mean, people talk
does.
about, well, if if creatures evolved in other galaxies, would they have 2 arms and 2 legs and a head and 2 eyes? Well, maybe not. I don't know. But if they were us from the future that could come back and try and help fix things or guide things the way that they need to,
Quantum leap.
then they might. Yeah, right. So, don't know.
Well, Jim, what do you think?
I think it's Nick Pope.
Okay,
I just wanted to figure out a way to bring up Nick Pope because I love the guy. But
he's an awesome guy.
No, I honestly don't know. I could easily see some of these being foreign adversary technology. I hope that that's not the case because that's a bit of a more scary scenario than
Well, that's where we're going next. So
perhaps any other. So there's still a possibility that some of it is our own country's technology, or perhaps the advanced technology of a third-party developer or contractor here in the U.S. that's just, really forward-thinking and they've figured stuff out. Extraterrestrial, I'm on record many times on my own podcast saying that I think that the extraterrestrial hypothesis is just one out of all these possibilities that we're talking about, but I don't even know if it's the most likely scenario. But extraterrestrial is clearly got to be in the running as a consideration. Interdimensional, I kind of lean more toward that, especially where Skinwalker Ranch is involved. But the difficulty with interdimensional is how do we really know how to define something that is an interdimensional intelligence? Because if we do, I've yet to hear it. And then the other would be, and Lou mentioned this, is cryptoterrestrial, right? Well, cryptoterrestrial, often referred to as ultra-terrestrial, would be a species or a civilization that has always been native to planet Earth, or at least has been here right alongside humans, that has been able to maintain their status of being hidden from mainstream society through, their presumably advanced technology and understanding of science and physics that exceeds our own. So I honestly, I know it's not much of an answer and it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I would say really it could be any or all of the above, because it's the same principle that I apply to Skinwalker Ranch whenever people ask me, what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch. And the guys that work there, as we know, will be the first ones to tell you they don't know, except that there appears to be multiple intelligences. The only thing that gives me pause is what Eric Davis's testimony was in this film, where he talks about knowing firsthand of 2 distinct species that are not human. And he said at least one of those were humanoid, which would mean obviously they look like we do. They've got 2 arms, 2 legs, whatever the case may be. So I'm leaving that one as open. And as Mike said, I'm so glad that Mike mentioned the extratemporal or intertemporal hypothesis. There was a time when I would have completely dismissed that notion as being the least likely, and especially listening to Hal Puthoff talk about the mechanics of how these some of these craft and how it's difficult to get accurate photos of them, and the time bubble that they talk about and the wave they talk about writing. I think that's a very possible scenario we could be looking at for some of them. So it could be any of them. But if you were to force me down and nail me down, I'd say pass.
Pass. All right, chat, you're not off the hook either. I want to hear from you in the chat. What do you guys think of those 4 or add or 5 or 6 now? We've got 6 now because it might be Nick Pope. But give us your thoughts out there, what you think. Let me know. So bring them up in the chat. John Nyberger, you're up next. What do you think?
I'm going to say it's a mix of all of the above. And, again, the time traveling alien / advanced human from the future is an option. You know, that's, I believe Michael Masters refers to that as the extra tempestrial, you know, perspective. I think that's what it was. But yeah, honestly, I think most of the things we see is mundane, has some mundane explanation. But if you're talking about the stuff that the military sees that they can't identify, that already eliminates a lot of the mundane stuff because they have a lot of advanced sensors. If we want to focus on those sorts of things, I think a lot of the stuff is still our tech. We have a lot of advanced tech that people see that just might seem really strange until you know what it is. There might be foreign adversarial tech also. But again, if we want to narrow or focus narrowly on the stuff that we haven't been able to identify, who knows? That's why we need to study it.
Yes.
Who knows what it is?
Yes.
We need to study it and find out what the hell it is. I mean, it could be a wide variety of things, some of which we can't even comprehend, or maybe we haven't even thought of yet.
Right.
But we got to study it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read these again because somebody asked what were the choices again. So we had foreign adversary tech, China, Russia, something like that. Robust counterintelligence tech, our own stuff that we're, doing for counterintelligence, and interdimensional or extraterrestrial, or a combination of all of those. And then also Mike brought up the extratemporal or intertemporal, Nick Pope. And yeah. So what do you think? So John Stratton, what do you think?
I'm glad that everyone else kind of agrees that all of the above is more so the option, because it's not really a cop-out answer, so to speak. But this is where we get into the distinction when we talk about national security is the UFO distinction of unidentified flying object versus unidentified aerial phenomena, the UAP. So our foreign adversaries fall right under the UFO category versus the things outside of our current understanding in the UAP. It's common that, under, say, the SR-71 program, that whenever they were doing test flights, whenever they were flying, there was an uptick in reports of UFO activity. And then, of course, if we go back to World War II with the Messerschmitt Bf-109, which if you're not as much of a nerd as I am, you might just understand that's the first fighter jet that the German Luftwaffe had managed to develop. When our pilots first encountered that aircraft, they had no clue what they were seeing. They thought it was some kind of alien technology. They had absolutely no clue. So when we look at, what is this thing in the sky, everything is on the table until you break it down and can say it's one thing, the other, and you have to classify it. And that's, what we're talking about here today is how do we classify these things that we see?
Right. Now, as for me, I want to say I wish it was extraterrestrial. That was my hope, because again, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe in life on other planets. We are not the only intelligence in this universe. So I want to believe that it's extraterrestrial.
Hey, I've been to Nevada. There's life there. So why can't there be life elsewhere in the universe?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Provo, Utah.
And you look at this fact that there is so many different types of life on this planet itself, so many different types. So I want it to be extraterrestrial.
That live in extreme atmospheric conditions, right?
So absolutely. Ones that we can't live in. Human beings can't live in. But I feel that it's a combination, and I feel and this is where we're going next, is adversarial. I have a feeling that it could be adversarial tech, and they're testing. I feel that it could be our own stuff, because going back to the legacy program and those contractors, those defense contractors, we never really did talk about that entity much yet. But I feel that they have had this and been working on this stuff for 80 years now. So it could be their testing. But it also could be extraterrestrial. I think it would have initiated or come from extraterrestrial initially. And now what we're seeing could be a combination of all of the above. That's what I believe. And I'm thank you guys in the chat for coming up with what you thought too. So some really, really interesting answers out there.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you still consider them extraterrestrial if, say, we've been around for allegedly 300,000 years, if they've been here 1 million?
No.
I mean, if they've been here before us,
Right.
what if we're the aliens?
Mhm.
We may be.
I think
And
that's
they've
one of
been
the
here
most
all along.
interesting options.
Now that's a whole can of
yeah,
worms that they didn't talk about.
That might be why
Yeah.
they're so interested in nuclear technology and what we're doing to
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah.
You know, if that's truly the case, if those reports are accurate, that might be why. They might have been here first, and they're like, you guys, we've kind of been leaving you on your own, but what the hell?
Right.
Yeah.
Going back to the whole ocean thing, you know, because they talked about
What
they
if
were to go
this has
somewhere and
all
hide
been
in the
a
ocean.
big TV show?
Oh, I know. See, there
What
you go.
if we are the universe's reality TV show?
Oh
I
my
mean,
We're the
God.
Truman Show, except
We're about to get
Yeah.
canceled.
Well,
Yeah. Big
Right.
brother.
there's a book that I just started listening to, and believe me, because of the language, it's very, very difficult for me to listen to. But it's called Dungeon Crawler Carl. If any of you want to check out something really, there's a lot of language in it, and it bothers me to no end. But it's a good story. But and I'll leave it at that. Just research it. Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's about what you are talking about, sort of. Okay, so I was going there next, and it's the adversarial, because and this was something, and again, I'm not exactly sure who made the statement. I think it was Eric Davis, or it might have been Hal put off, but they were talking about the fact that Russia, back in the time of Gorbachev and I think it was
Would have been Bush in '89.
Bush Senior, and they were talking about this back and forth with each other. But there was an alien craft that crashed in Russia that they got possession of. It was a Tic Tac style. It was twice as big, and there was 4 alien bodies aboard. Okay, so now if in Russia and China, supposedly both of those have alien tech, and we have alien tech. Okay. And it was made, the comment was made on the documentary about the fact that if you think for a moment that if they had it and if they developed it and they were sure about it and they thought we didn't, would they not use it already? Would they have not tried to use it to gain superiority? And then that was going back to the whole thing of the the bomb, the nuclear, that was dropped on, or the H bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. We got there first. We did it first. And so we became the big superpower with that. But who's next? And so it was a race of this technology to see who could go there next. So that was one of the areas where they talked about in this documentary is our foreign adversaries that may have this tech and develop it. What do you guys think about that? What do you think? Do you think, first of all, they have it? And do you think that they've obviously been developing it? And do you think that they're closer than we are? Oh, is Reagan and Gorbachev? Okay. Okay. Brian, I was just reading what Brian said there. Anyway, somebody jump in on that. What do you think about our adversaries having this tech and being closer than we are to develop and being able to use it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think they do. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, there's nothing special about us as Americans. That why wouldn't they? And I'm afraid to say that because we've compartmentalized and overclassified, we've hamstrung ourselves, and they how could they not be ahead of us?
Right.
Doing it, setting it up the way we set it up. It's a horrible way to develop technology. That's not how R&D groups are run in companies. And yet here we are trying to compartmentalize it and not even tell people what they're working on, and try and develop stuff. So China can, take the top students out of every class and say, yep, you're going to go work over here. That's what your job is now. Have a good life. And that's what they got to do. I mean, they can force it. We can't, and we don't. And even worse, we hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
You know,
the
that's
way
an
we,
unfortunate part of communism is that they can just tell you what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead, John. I'm
I was
always
gonna
going to step over you.
well, we all do. That's okay. No, I think the way we approach this issue as a nation is shaped by our culture. And these are three very different cultures. And, I think we talked earlier about how there was some maybe religious resistance to this topic or religious biases that would not be present in China or Russia. There's going to be some cultural baggage that each one brings to the topic. And sadly, on this particular topic, I think we might be bringing some baggage that's hindering us that they would not have.
Yep. I agree.
So that puts us potentially at a disadvantage.
Yep.
I mean, we are extremely advanced technologically, and who knows what they even have in SAPs or in these defense contractors. It's probably absolutely bonkers what we don't know about.
Yeah.
But knowing that, the Russians and the Chinese probably have similar levels of technology in some ways, but with UAP, who knows what they've discovered? They don't have the resistance that we do in some aspects.
Right. Jim, do you want to weigh in on it at all, or?
Yeah, I just would echo what both Mike and John have said. I think it would be really naive for anybody to think that our adversaries or our allies have not engaged in UAP crash retrievals, because we know that UAPs appear all over the planet. It's not a uniquely American
Correct.
phenomenon. It's not even a uniquely first world country phenomenon. So they sightings happen all over the world. Crashes have happened all over the world, and I think it's a certainty that both Russia and China are engaged in their own reverse engineering programs and crash retrieval programs. And I think that, as Mike said, we've kind of hamstrung ourselves with compartmentalizing this so much, which is why it's another facet to the national security threat, and it's one that we created ourselves with all the keeping the brightest minds out of it, and if the rumors are true and that everything is now managed more so in the private sector with certain defense contractors as opposed to being truly overseen by government agencies, then again it just complicates it. And I think it's you absolutely have to take it as a possibility. And the other overarching theme on this is once you show your adversaries what your hand is, what technology you have, they're going to be privy to it. They're going to I don't know. I think you have to still keep that option on the table that some of this might be either our own tech or foreign tech, which but it's absolutely it's something that we should take very seriously, and it's another reason why we should really look at overhauling the way that we're keeping these secrets.
Absolutely.
Just my thought.
Yeah. John Stratton, did you want to add any more to that? Or I know you said a little bit there. But.
Yeah. Well, talking about communism, but, ultimately it would be naive to say that the United States is the only country that would have a crash retrieval program or have in our possession this extraterrestrial or UAP, whatever terminology you want to use, technology. And, I'm fearful that we'll fall behind. I'm also thankful that we do have, even though we compartmentalize it with these government contractors, we do have some of the best contractors in the world for developing not only weapons tech, but, electrical and other engineering aspects. So, ultimately, I do believe America would be number one. However, we can't fall into that trap of, we're always going to be ahead. We're always going to be the best. We really got to look at what our adversaries are doing. And, I wouldn't necessarily say work with them, because I doubt that this sort of, weapons-based
Yeah.
ability is going to be something they'd be willing to work with us on. But
Right.
we need to look at ways to breach the gap of this is a global issue versus a local national issue.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing that was kind of briefly touched upon in the documentary was stop and think for a moment what this technology, how dangerous it would be if it fell into the wrong hands. We're talking about technology that has the potential to, deal with bending space and time, negating the effects of inertia and gravity. Um, you could. There's unfortunately that's just part of being a member of the human race. Is there are bad actors out there that would absolutely use it to nefarious means if they were able to unlock some of these technologies. So it's it's serious business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that they brought
To
they talked
reinforce
about
your
on that.
point, Jim. Oh, I'm sorry.
You know,
Go ahead,
I
Mike.
was just going to say
Yeah.
they did touch on that it's you equate it to say trying to share information on nuclear power. Well, okay, you can make a nuclear power plant, and hey, that's great. We can have almost free energy, but you can also make nuclear weapons if you refine that.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing, 0 point energy. Yeah, you could have unlimited power for driving vehicles and flying, eggs and doing all of that. But you could also collect so much power that when you unleash it, it rips the planet apart.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other. Free energy is free energy. If you want to use it to run a car or use it to make the biggest bomb the planet's ever seen, it's still free energy. So you have to be careful.
Exactly.
And if I can just interject here real quickly, Johnny, before you
Go ahead.
get your point here, because I'm just it's on my mind now. And let's also bear in mind, as using the nuclear energy as a good example here, you can go to school and learn about nuclear energy. You can go to school to learn how to be a nuclear engineer. You can go to school to learn about how to build a nuclear power plant. What you can't do, because the information is protected and kept secret, is how to enrich that uranium and create a nuclear weapon. That stuff is still safely guarded secrets for a very good reason. So again, it kind of plays into this overall thing. Does the government or the military or any entity really have the right to hide the reality of whether or not we're alone on the planet? And does it need to be safeguarded to the same extent that this technology does? Because obviously you're going to want to keep some of this technology secret, because for the very reasons that we've been talking about. But there's certain parts of the knowledge that should not be kept secret, like that simple knowledge of, are we alone? Are we alone on the planet? So anyway, Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just reinforcing your points. We've seen what bad actors, what terrorists are able to do with very little technology. Imagine what will happen if they get their hands on such advanced technology that they could not only take out a city building and a block, but take out an entire city in one fell swoop. That's the concerns. And that's where I understand a lot of the national security protections about compartmentalizing and trying to protect the information is that's a very genuine, realistic fear.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I finally found that statement from Jay, and it kind of just, because it reminded me, because you had just kind of alluded to it a little bit there, Jim. Jay had made the quote here. He said, there may be aspects of this that are so intense that they cannot be shared. However, the basic fact that we are not alone in the universe, we can share that with the American people. We can handle it at this point. So that was, he was kind of talking about that. There are parts of what he knows and some of this that are so sensitive that it cannot be shared. So, and I mentioned that a while back. I was talking, on different shows and talking about the fact that will we get all the answers from them? No. And should we? Probably not.
Probably not.
you know, and if they're developing, you know, new technologies, new defense or weaponry or that kind of thing, do we need to know about that stuff? No, we really don't. Because, and I think it was also Jay that had said, we can't tell our friends without our enemies hearing it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah,
something
and
to keep in mind. Go ahead.
you know, just another thing my dad Jay said is, you know, this is the modern day Manhattan Project.
Yes.
It's a
On steroids.
it's a,
On
a
steroids.
stunning and, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a stunning and solemn connection
Yeah.
there that we have to recognize.
With planet supremacy going to the winner. It's an all you know, the highest stakes perhaps we've ever known.
Right. Now, that kind of segues us right into the next portion. And again, folks that are listening here, this is all stuff that they discussed on or talked about. We're not, well, there's been a couple of small little things that we've kind of gone down a rabbit hole, but this is all things that were discussed in this documentary movie. So we're not, you know, so we're kind of injecting our own thoughts and theories into this, but these are things that, and again, it's the reason why you need to watch this, because they explain it so much better than I can, for sure. So going with that next portion of this, okay, let's assume that it's alien tech, that the UAPs that we are seeing are extraterrestrial. Okay. And you've seen people on Facebook or whatever, on a reel or something, you know, making the comment that aliens, you know, lock their doors on their ship when they pass by the earth because, you know, that's the bad part of town or bad part of space or whatever. So lock your door when you go by the earth. Thinking about this, and I'm going to bring this up here. This was the portion of the show where they talked about these bases where alien craft were witnessed by multiple people hovering over, in some cases at the front gate, other cases, a couple other cases, they were hovering right over nuclear missile silos. And there's a case where they turned them all off. There was that guy that had said that over the course of a week, they had turned off 20 nuclear warheads, turned them off. We couldn't use them. They had no guidance system, whatever, turned them off. In Russia, it was talked about, and I think it was Lou that talked about this, they had turned them on, and they were all aimed at the United States. So they were essentially saying, you know, you can't harm us, okay, with what you have, but we're telling you that we can control what you're doing because we can turn these off, we can turn them on. And these craft, one guy talked about this ball like the sun that was the size of a super Walmart hovering over. Another guy talked about one that came in as a light, then the light went out, and then it hovered over the base, and it was like a large diamond shape. Mm-hmm. So they were checking out what we have and kind of assessing where we are in our technology. The guy made the analogy of ants in the backyard. Okay, so you have your house in the backyard, you got an anthill. They're in the backyard, not a threat to you. They're not a problem. Okay, they start coming in the house, and now they're all over the place in your house. Now they're a threat. Now you need to take action on this. And that we are, at this point, ants in the backyard. What do you think about that? What do you think about what they're doing? Are they checking out our tech to see what level we're at this point? Are they checking it out to try to tell us, send a message to us to say, chill on all of this stuff? What do you think? What do you think about that?
I think that's absolutely a possibility. We kind of touched on that earlier, but I did like Hal's analogy of, you know, if the ants are in the backyard, but they're, you know, back by your back fence, maybe that's not a big deal. If they're in your house, that's a problem you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And in this case, the ants now have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah.
that's
still in the
I thought we were
backyard,
the
but you have
ants.
nuclear weapons. Yeah.
right. You
Hey,
know,
I've had ants in my backyard, and they always argue. So,
well, and then some places have fire ants, like Jay and
Yeah.
Michelle's house, and they didn't warn me, and now that was something I experienced this past summer. It was not
Oh.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Okay.
no, I think the nuclear missile base incidents were the best way that I can describe it is they're flexing. They're showing that they are more advanced than us. They have the ability to do things that we don't have any explanation for. And why would if you're thinking like a human, that's what it looks like to me, is that they were flexing to say, look what we can do. You know, I'm not so sure about the you know saying that we can't harm them, because it would seem to me that when the real big upswing in UAP and UFO activity began was when the Trinity site atomic bomb test began, before we even dropped atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So I think that probably the detonation of nuclear weapons probably signaled, using a quote from the Avengers, once we started using, nuclear weapons, it signaled to the cosmos that we were, ready for a higher state of warfare, as it were, and we became dangerous, or more dangerous, maybe because maybe they are stewards of our planet, and they realize that a nuclear weapon in the wrong hands is, devastating to the planet and the environment. So it's, I think that, yeah, I think the best way that I would describe it is I think they were just flexing on us to say, look, you think you're hot stuff? Well, maybe not so fast, kid. So,
yeah.
John,
John,
goes back to
go
the
ahead.
crypto-terrestrial theory too. Like
Yeah,
if they were here before us, and this is, they might see this as their planet, and they're just kind of keeping an eye on things, and that's why they're more interested as we become more dangerous to ourselves and to others.
Did we freeze?
it's Nick Pope's planet. We're just living in it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you're frozen, John. I don't know if we can hear you if you speak, but it looks like you're frozen. Or you're deep in thought. Oh,
There he is. There he is.
That's
Yeah,
weird.
I froze for a second there, I guess.
Yeah.
I lost connection for a moment. Yeah.
Okay.
No, to the point of the atomic bomb, the aspect, I mean, think about what Oppenheimer said. I am now what was it? I am now become death, destroyer of worlds. Yeah. Destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I wrote a song about that.
Yeah, my internet's messing with us a little bit.
Yeah. How many different types of aliens are there? Are they friendly, or do they want to enslave us? Well, here that's one of the things that they talk about a little bit too. If they wanted to, they could have already. And would they have done it before we came a little bit more advanced like we are now? Would they have done it then? Or are they waiting to see what's happening? I don't know. That's one of those questions that it's really tough to try to answer. And there was a couple of good comments that were brought up here. I think somebody who said something. They've seen that we've taken their tech and they want it back, or something like that. I saw that one fly by. There was a couple of really good comments that were brought up, and now I'm having to figure out. I think they're experimenting, and they want to. And I think we are an experiment of theirs, and they are monitoring it. Could be. I don't know. I hope not. There are people that believe that if you watch Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, that they seeded us and they're just watching our progress. But I don't want to believe that, because
if you've ever been to any of my family reunions, you would have a different viewpoint.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. So, the ability to come and turn off those atomic bombs or nuclear warheads, to turn them off and turn them on, and in checking those things out like that. I mean, that I think, going along with what Jim said, they're flexing, or somebody in the chat said they're flexing their muscles, at us, and letting us know that they're not afraid of us, and they can do what they want. But if they were, and I go back to this, I just mentioned it a little bit ago, if they were adversarial, why have they waited? Why haven't they done anything yet? So I want to believe, and we've shot missiles at them. I mean, they have taken fire from us, and yet they didn't retaliate that we know of. So I don't know. And somebody had mentioned on the show about the gift. Could those? They talked about the crash, and they said, well, okay, if an alien, if they're so much advanced now, how could they possibly crash? Okay, well, things happen. I mean, that they may not have expected or whatever, and it crashed. But or as Hal said, was it a gift? Did they give us a gift? Did they give China and Russia a gift as well, or any other country out there? Did they give these gifts? Was it an IQ test?
That's what I was about to say. Could be an IQ test.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, let's give them a little taste, see what they do with it, see if they can figure it out. And if they do kind of figure some of this out, can they make good use of it rather than blowing themselves up again? It's plausible. They might just be testing us.
Yeah.
Well, and let's also remember there's stories of how some of the craft that have come into the possession of our government came by way of archaeological digs, allegedly, as well as some that have been said that they, for want of a better word, landed and the occupants fled, or the occupants weren't there by the time that the retrieval teams got there. So, a very good question. I think it's a really interesting thing to ponder as to whether or not were some of these gifted to us for whatever reason. And I think that's a really. I was happy to hear Hal talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Okay, so I'm going to jump over here looking at the clock here a little bit. I'm going to jump over and talk about something that Lou Elizondo brought up. When they formed the UAP task force, we saw it come out, and we saw this this press release that they showed on the documentary last night, the establishment of the UAP Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force in 2020. And they talked about their mission statement. The mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could pose a threat to national security. And I was really shocked also by the fact that they said that the FAA, here you would think of the Air Force being one and the FAA being another, that would be really interesting in tracking UAPs flying around for the safety of our airlines flying around out there. We haven't had one that we know of hit an airline and bring it down yet, but it could very well happen. But looking at the observables, now this was something that Lou had talked about, the observables. And I thought it was really interesting because these are the things that they're looking for. And he called them the 5 observables. And here they are here. Hypersonic velocity, instantaneous acceleration, low observability, transmedium. This is the one that really gets me, is transmedium travel, and anti-gravity. Hypervelocity. I mean, he kind of went through a description on all of these, and we're not going to get into all of this as we go along here, but one of them that really gets me is the instantaneous acceleration. The being able to stop and go thousands of miles an hour in a moment, making a right-hand turn. He used the SR-71 as an example of how it's 4,200 miles an hour. I forget how much he said, but he said when it's making a turn at those speeds, it takes half the state of Ohio to make a turn. But now
I believe it actually cannot turn around in the state of Ohio.
Wow. Isn't that crazy? You think about
Yeah.
that. Okay. It's going that fast, but it can't make that high of a turn. But instantaneous acceleration. And we've heard that mentioned many, many times by different people where they see a UAP, it's kind of either moving very slowly or it's not moving at all. And all of a sudden, gone. It just takes off that quick. Transmedium means that it can operate in more than one medium. I know that's the one that gets me, because can you say the mesa, going through the mesa on Skinwalker
Yeah.
Ranch, going
Yeah.
through water. Guys, what do you think?
And
I
how
wish I
appropriate to
remembered
have-
who gave me this analogy, but the way transmedia travel was explained to me, stupid enough, was imagine you have a person on a diving platform. As they run down the platform, they're traveling through ground. As they run through the air, they're falling with style. They're flying through the air. And once they go under the water, now they're traveling underwater, and they've now transversed through 3 media of travel.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Can they go through the brick wall though?
Yeah,
I've tried,
we
it
talked
doesn't
about
work.
that too. Yeah,
Yeah, a diver
I don't
can,
recommend it.
but apparently these things.
I
can
tried
tra-
that recently. It's not a good idea.
Doesn't work. Yeah.
Jim has evidence that we can't do that.
Right.
But I think it was Dr. Travis Taylor did mention that, some of these things apparently could travel through solid matter. And he was speaking about that in the context of, if we had bad guys that had this technology, you could slap a nuclear weapon inside of one of these, send it through solid matter to get it to where you needed it to go and blow it up without anyone knowing that it was there.
Yeah.
But so he was still talking to that, these things apparently transmedia means going through solid matter. It's as if their environment is irrelevant. And I believe Hal Puthoff spoke to it being as if they had their own bubble of their own space-time. So it doesn't matter where they go. They don't care. It's all the same to them, which is wild. I mean, if that's real, this is crazy.
And I really liked how he said that part of what we're seeing may be a natural optical illusion, if I understood it correctly, because to the people that are in the craft, the speed is, regular speed. There's no inertia. There's no effects of gravity. But where we are, because we're in a different plane of that space-time, because it's warping it, we have a distorted view of it. And I like how he said that could account for the optical effect of how
optical distortion.
When people try to take a picture of it, why do UAPs always come out looking fuzzy? Well, there we go. Maybe that is one of the best explanations I've ever heard, and courtesy of Hal Puthoff. And I really enjoyed that little segment that Hal explained that time bubble and how it kind of rides the wave of space and time. And really, that was probably one of my top 5 favorite things in the film. That little segment.
Yeah, that was where they showed this riding that wave. It turned and it's using that bubble. So it's inside, and I like how Eric Davis kept saying the warp bubble. I love that, the warp bubble. It's a perfect way to make that comment.
And we've seen, and as I was going to say earlier, how fitting is it that it was Travis Taylor that comes on and explains some of that to us, because we have seen this very thing on Skinwalker Ranch, where we have seen these UAP, these orbs, whatever you want to call them, flying into one part of the mesa and then exiting out another part with no damage, nothing like that. And this could be one possible explanation as to how that might be possible. And I found that, again, really fascinating.
Well, and you have the experiments on I mean, this isn't a Skinwalker Ranch episode, but this is relevant, right? You have experiments showing time loss on measuring devices. Sensors actually lose time. You have time differences on the ranch where there shouldn't be any. You have perhaps some evidence of things above the ranch that are tangibly there, but don't interact with us like something in our space time should.
Right.
To some extent, that sounds a lot like UAP. There's what do they say? A cloaked Romulan warbird parked above the ranch, right? We don't know, but again, it's kind of interesting that there are such similarities.
Yeah, Hal explained that a lot of what's going on is explained by our own physics. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Jeff, can you put that picture back up?
Which one?
The one that,
This
that one. Yeah, Einstein talked about gravitational lensing And
Yep.
that's a good picture illustrating what that means.
Mhm.
Is that you can see how those lines bend and go around the object.
Mhm.
That's gravitational lensing, and that's was to be expected when you have a large or a powerful gravitational bubble, so to speak. He was really, I think, speaking to it about planets, but in this case, it's no different. It's just on a much smaller scale, enough to cover a craft. Hal also talked about how our current physics also allows for an object, say this size, that once you are inside it, is the size of a skyscraper,
Like a TARDIS.
right? Like a TARDIS. It looks small on the outside, but you get inside it, and it's significantly bigger. Now, our physics equations explain that, but you have to have a massive power source,
Yeah.
beyond what we would ever be able to accomplish in our current world. But if they have 0 point energy and unlimited energy, that wouldn't be a problem. Then all of
Right.
this works. So
Yeah.
it all still makes sense. It's not just woo woo stuff. It's real.
Not not at all. And another interesting thing, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because you probably have a better practical understanding of it than I do. But go back and look at particularly the video that we have of the gimbal UFO
Mhm.
sighting.
Yeah.
There is a glow seemingly around the object, and
Mhm.
we've been told that that's not necessarily an artifact that's created by the gun camera, but that it actually picks up that there's a some kind of electromagnetic or whatever kind of force that's there, and we've seen it. In fact, they showed it in the documentary when they showed multiple pictures of UAPs. You can see that kind of glow kind of type thing around each of these objects. That it makes sense that it is that gravity bubble or that warp bubble that Eric Davis talks about. So again, mind blown.
Yeah. When you get the
Yeah.
still shots, when you get shots of craft that are moving slowly, um, or not moving at all, quite oftentimes you'll get a much clearer picture. But when they are traveling, you get that glow around them, that bubble around them. And how have we heard pilots? Many of the pilots that were interviewed for this, and again, folks, this all goes, everything we're talking about goes back to this documentary that was explained so much better. But these pilots had talked about finding and seeing a UAP surrounded by a box or a bubble, the inside of this, and they see that. And the one talked about how it was a square inside of a bubble and the edges were touching the edge of the bubble. I mean, they saw it that clearly to be able
Yeah.
to describe it like that.
Mhm.
And I believe that was
Ryan
a great.
Graves.
Yeah, exactly. And so they observed these things, and those things were flying. Now, if they had, I mean, if you needed to be transmedium, then you would be needing to, like you guys had just talked about, take yourself out of normal space time. They also talked about when you hear about people that are abducted or whatever, they go inside one of these things or they're taken inside one of these craft, and they think they were only gone for a couple minutes, and in fact they were gone for several hours.
Missing
Because
time.
time was not moving the same within and without. So pretty interesting when you look at that. And one of the comments, or one of the quotes that was made about the power technology, the warp bubble, and he said, and this was, I believe this was Eric Davis had said, energy, 11 billion watts of power, 100 times the daily use of the entire United States of America in a day. And he talked about the couple of different ways of obtaining that. A bubble of vacuum energy. Now, and I don't really understand that, quite honestly, but he talked about the 0 point energy. But again, that kind of goes over my head. Or quantum entanglement. In other words, pulling that power from somewhere else.
Mhm.
Okay, think of the most powerful thing we can think of in our little galaxy right here. Solar
Black hole.
system, in our solar system, the sun, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think of the sun. if they could use quantum entanglement and pull power from the sun to do whatever they need to do, I mean, that blows my mind. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep, and there are science fiction ideas just like that. There are types of civilizations that may have entirely harnessed the power of a star. And yeah, if you could essentially beam that energy via quantum tunneling or a wormhole, essentially, from one place to another to use it as you need. If that's what's really going on here, that's kind of insane. If you just stop and think about that level of technology, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yep.
And think of what that could do for our planet if we learned how to harness it without blowing each other up.
Right.
Like if we actually had that tech and could utilize it for good, that is a game changer.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the closest, the closest we can come on this planet to having 11.1 billion
11 billion watts of power.
Yeah, the closest energy level like that would be like giving a toddler a can of Coke and some pixie sticks. that's probably the closest thing that we have. At least that I've
And
seen.
here I thought you were going to get scientific and talk about fission, but you know,
I'm a Raiders fan. I can't even spell fission.
He can't go there. Yeah, he doesn't know what that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I might try to sound a little too smart here, but I'm no Dr. Travis Taylor. You know, with these crafts, something that was talked about is how, you know, from the outside they're small, but from the inside, excuse me, sorry, they're massive and expansive. Is almost as if they're shrinking down mass. So one thing, going back to a little bit about what Mike said with Einstein, is, you know, we take the basic equation E equals mc squared, the, you know, simplest form of energy here. You know, when we boost up mass, but we shrink its size, are we then lessening the energy input required for the travel at such speeds? You know, it's, you know, something to think about with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, no Dr. Travis Taylor, but sometimes I might sound a little smart.
None of us are fit those shoes. I don't think so anyway.
No one's loud enough.
Yeah. He doesn't need a walkie-talkie on the ranch.
You have no idea how accurate that statement
Yeah.
is, Mike.
What if they are pulling the energy from the environment? What if the pulling of the energy from the environment creates the vacuum, which they use to, I got to jump over here, suck up their ship in the direction they want? Well, yeah, I don't know. It's why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I remember being a child of the 1980s. I am a big fan of the original generation of Transformers, you know, Optimus Prime and Megatron. And I'll never forget where Megatron allegedly got his power and his energy from was he was able to tap in to the energy of a black hole to power his fusion cannon. So that was always kind of like the coolest power that I ever saw. Like,
quantum entanglement.
So Transformers were ahead of the ball. There you go.
Yeah. I knew it. I knew it all along.
Dang Decepticons.
Yeah. You know, again, folks, I'm just going to say that we are only scratching the surface of what this documentary was all about. You know, and this is some of what they talked about. And we're doing our best as not being involved in all of this more than, you know, just being observers in this. We're doing our best to try to relate to you, those of you who have not seen it, some of the information that was imparted in all of this. We're getting close on 2 hours here. And I did want to, first of all, let each of you take a moment or two or whatever to talk about something that we haven't discussed already from your notes. But one thing that I did want to mention in my part here before we go is talking about, and this was Gary Nolan was talking about this. Now he was talking about the last observable, which is being damaged by, you know, any of this. I think it was, let me pull this. Whoops.
Physical effects.
Yes. Physical, biological effects of these things and people actually being harmed. But if you take what he said, you can actually apply it to that as well as apply it to the entire discussion of what we're talking about here. He said, we can argue about the conclusion, what the conclusion is, but we can't argue about what the data is, that the data is real. So we can argue about the conclusion, but we can't argue that the data is real. And that, I think, is one of the themes of this entire documentary is talking about here. There's a lot of different opinions on what the conclusion is, but the data and the fact that I believe that we have some of this technology, and these guys and the contractors are working with this and have been for a long time. That's real. So that's something to really consider in that. So we'll go around the room and just think, anybody can jump in on this about anything that we did not cover here that you would like to bring up before we say goodnight. Now everybody's checking their notes real quick.
You caught me, Jeff. I'm like, I don't know. What didn't we cover? We're only through the first two pages of my notes, Jeff.
I know.
We've got a long way to go.
And there will be another podcast. We're going to be doing another one with Jim
tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow. So the 5 or maybe 6 of us will be doing this again tomorrow. It won't be live, but it'll come out hopefully tomorrow night.
That's right. Join us for part 2.
Yeah.
Yes,
so part 2 will be on the Soul of the
6-part series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll just dive in here and address kind of what we talked about a little bit in the green room before we got started tonight. Was let's talk about what some of the critical things that have been levied against the documentary. And one of the starting points is people saying, people complaining that they have to pay money to see this documentary.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, folks. Whenever you make a documentary that is professionally produced, it costs money to do something like that. And the way that you make back your investment is by putting it up for sale. Now, the information that is being offered up by all of these wonderful 34 individuals that are providing their experiences, their insights, and their testimonies in this documentary, as far as I know, they weren't paid for their appearances. So obviously, you provide a service like making a documentary. It's the world we live in. You charge money for it. If it was me doing it, you can bet your behind I would be charging money for people to see the documentary.
Well,
now the information itself, of course, that should be free to everybody. And guess what? It's getting out there in the news reports. Again, CNN with Jake Tapper did a fantastic interview with Dan Farah. Bill Maher on HBO had Dan Farah on and did a tremendous segment that was very supportive of the documentary. So there's a lot of great media organizations that are covering it that are still getting the information out there. But for people to go after Dan Farah and complain about, oh, why do I got to pay $24.99 to see this on Amazon? Well, okay, folks, if you don't want to pay $24.99, give it about a month or two, and it will probably be available on Prime Video. But guess what? You got to have Amazon Prime. Got to be a Prime member to watch it, right? So the reality is, it's just the world we live in, folks. You have to spend money sometimes. I mean, the internet's a great thing, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that think that they shouldn't have to pay for certain things. There's a lot of people that don't think they should have to pay for music. You can thank Spotify for that, and don't even get me started on that conversation. Yeah. So it's that simple, folks. We live in a capitalistic society in the United States and the Western world, and you provide a service, you should expect to get some modicum of compensation for it. And if you want to have something like that, there's nothing wrong with Dan Farah or anybody else charging money to own this documentary. I have the privilege of knowing Jay Stratton and Travis Taylor. I still bought the documentary because I wanted to support not only my friends, but also Dan Farah for this amazing documentary he's put out. So I get where people come from that don't feel that they should have to pay for things like this, but at the same time, you get no sympathy from me. And that's just me telling it like it is from me being the cranky New Yorker that I am. But
These are the same people that are complaining about them not coming out and talking in the first place. Then they
Exactly.
complain they have to pay for it. What?
Mhm.
No,
right,
you
right.
don't get it both ways.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said again in the green room earlier as well, all those people in the credits at the end of the movie, those people don't work for free.
Right.
You've got the cinematographer, the camera people, the camera renting the equipment, the sound people, the renting the locations, all of that stuff, getting the licenses for the different material that they've included in the movie, the other film footage, audio. They've got the composer to pay for, the 30-piece orchestra they got to record the music for it.
Mhm.
All of that and more costs a lot of money. So if you're wondering why you have to pay, that's why. That stuff is not cheap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. This podcast costs money to do this every week, and I don't charge for it, but I thank those who have, contributed to the show. I thank you very, very much. Believe me, it helps to keep this going. So anyway, I said that's my 2 cents on it. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, John.
I just wanted to say, but kind of on that note, it's worth it. I saw it for free already, and I'm like, hell yes, I will pay $25 to own this. And now I've watched it 3 times. I haven't got to 6 like Mike has, but I will be rewatching this simply because of the amount of information in it. I can't process all of the data in this in 1 or 2 or 3
You
sittings.
cannot.
There's
No, you
too
can't.
much.
It's a lot.
And I am not joking. I said this the first time I saw this, and I'm not exaggerating. The first thing I said to Jay after seeing it was, that's the most important documentary of its kind ever.
It is.
I firmly believe that.
100%.
And I will update that to say that's still true. I still believe that. It may be the most important documentary of any kind that has been made.
Mhm.
It may turn out to be that important.
It tackles such an existential question. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it has the result that they intend, which is to get out to the people and get out to the people who maybe don't normally pay attention to this, and get them to see how important this is, and how real it is. And and then maybe perhaps put some more pressure on government or, something like that. But yeah, it's that important. And so, yeah, if you're just pay the money, watch the movie.
I'll do you one better, folks. If it gets released on Blu-ray or DVD, I'm going to buy multiple copies of it just so I can give them to my family and friends that I want to see that maybe don't have access to Amazon Prime Home Video or Apple TV or wherever else it may be streaming. So yeah, I believe enough in the cause, as it were. I know that's a bad word.
That's what this is about, the cause.
But that's why we're all here. All 5 of us are here tonight because we believe in the truth coming out. We want to see it come out, and we believe in the people that are shown in this documentary, and they need to be listened to. And that's what I'll end with, is that I think that this is a historic documentary where we have people of this caliber, of this level of integrity and character, speaking from firsthand experience, speaking from positions of authority, speaking from positions of knowledge. Okay. And it's like hitting the lottery, folks. This documentary literally hits on everything that matters. Now you can say, well, there's no evidence. Well, guess what, folks? When you're creating a case, let's call disclosure the case, okay? You have to have the evidentiary component, and part of that is testimony. So you have to get people's attention, and this is the greatest attention getter, this documentary. And I can't say enough good things, so I'll stop there, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record. But, just hats off to Dan Farah and to Jay Stratton, Lou Elizondo, and everybody that gave of their time and that shared this knowledge with us. I'm all in because of stuff like this, and that's the best I can say. And Jeff and Mike, thank you so much for having me on, and I'm sorry for not making any sense.
No, you're
But
good.
there you
And
go,
thank-
folks.
Yeah. Anyone else that wants to cover anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead, John.
Yeah. So, as historic as this documentary is, The Age of Disclosure is, amazing. I've enjoyed it. As, people reading the comments have already noticed, not only have I purchased the documentary on my own, my mother has purchased the documentary on her own. Nothing is free. And we might be closely, in touch with an executive producer, but we still don't get to watch these things for free. The topic is vast and expansive, and really we're just scratching the surface. We're just at the beginning, and this is to push the conversation, to push for disclosure. And something that we can't forget, and we didn't touch on really today, is we have to recognize that this is one of the truly bipartisan and open discussions, whether it be in Congress or just in the general public. I mean, I have to give shout outs to whether you disagree with them, you agree with them, it doesn't matter. But, Senators Chuck Schumer, Mike Rounds, or, Gillibrand, these people have all come together. And right there, yeah, they have all come together and are pushing for not only just the national security aspects of these things, but also declassifying, decreasing the stigma, opening things up so that not only can we have a safe reporting system, but the American public and the global, population at large can be informed of things that impact us at a greater level than just as the United States.
Right.
So, I just need to put that out there. We have to be appreciative and recognize that this is a really important, broad topic that hopefully will be continue to be talked about, for many, many years to come. And, as Jim said, just Jeff, Mike, thank you so much for having us on. We really appreciate it.
We can't wait to continue this conversation tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, and we're going to
Absolutely.
do that, folks. We are going to be talking about this some more tomorrow. Jim and John have their own podcast called "The Soul of the Unexplained," and I asked him. I said, "You guys want to come on?" And I said, "I don't know if you're going to be talking about this. I assumed that you would." And he said, "Yes, we are, but yes, we'd love to come on and talk about it with you too." So we're going to continue this conversation because Mike and I are going to join him. It is recorded tomorrow, but they're going to try to get this out as quickly as they can. For everyone to see, but we will be covering probably some of what we already talked about, but much, much more as we go along. But John, did you or Mike? I don't want to cut you off if you had something else you wanted to say before we wrap this up, because I'm going to have a closing thought here on this.
No, I'm still processing. There's so much
Right.
information. I don't
Right?
know.
Yeah.
It is. It's absolutely crazy how much there is. And folks, again, thank you for those of you. And my goodness, Betty girl. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate the support. I absolutely do. But again, folks, if you haven't seen this, you need to see the show. You really do. It's so good. And when you get done watching it, you're going to, Mike's brain is broken. You're going to come away with what I came away with was, and John Stratton touched on this as well. And so did Jim. But when I brought up this slide right here, we're not done yet. Okay. You've seen the hearings come out. You've seen them go and these whistleblowers come out and give their testimony in front of Congress. If we really start shouting about this, it's up to all of us. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, to do my little part, as little as it is, to get this word out, because it's not done yet. They're still getting pushback. Okay, I got to hand it to Schumer, Rounds, and Gillibrand because of what they're trying to do to get this bipartisan UAP Disclosure Act done. And their efforts are still getting pushback. How is that going to stop? It's going to stop by us, all of us, getting this out there. Talk about it, push it, get it as out there as much as you can, because if we talk about it, the media will talk about it. If the media talks about it, Congress will talk about it. And Congress is the one that needs to know, because as we talked about earlier, half of them didn't even know that their own government was doing this and had all this technology and these crash ships and all this stuff. They had no idea until the whistleblowers came out. So please tell your friends, tell your neighbors. I know you get the rolling of the eyes sometimes or whatever from people, but get this out there, because it's up to us, all of us, to make this become full disclosure. Will we ever get full disclosure? Maybe not, but we have a right to know these fundamental truths, as it was put by Lou Elizondo. So,
Bravo, Jeff.
you know,
Perfectly said. Perfectly said.
we got to do this. So, all right.
Spread the word.
You're yelling. I know. I was getting a little worked up there. I'm sorry. I got a little out of the microphone, but it's
Rein him in, Christina.
That's the most worked up I've ever seen you, Jeff.
Evangelize, brother.
Oof. Yeah, but it's that important. It really, truly is that important. All right. With that, catch us tomorrow night. Soul of the tomorrow. I'm assuming tomorrow night, but look for it. Soul of the Unexplained. We're going to be out there. We're going to be talking about this some more. And for that, and for you guys, I'll say, and thank you, Linda, for moderating tonight. Appreciate you very much.
We love
Folks,
Linda.
that's it. All right. Good night, and we'll catch you next time right here on the J Free 906 podcast.
See ya.
See ya.